Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Geezerology on YouTube. I'm Scott, coming to you today from South Florida. I reviewed the Todd Haynes documentary on the Velvet Underground that premiered this past Friday on Apple TV+. I reviewed that on Monday's edition of the Geezerology Gazette. But today I want to give you a quick rundown of what the accompanying soundtrack album offers. This 2 CD set also was released on Friday, the same day as the movie first appeared on Apple TV. This set is widely available to purchase. It seems like it's about $19.99, pretty much every place I've seen it. And it's also available on the big streaming services. And that's where I listen to it. I have not purchased the CD set, but I have listened to it on streaming. The music for this set, it was curated by Haynes and the film's musical supervisor, Randall Poster. The physical CD set comes with a booklet that has some liner notes written by Haynes. And the musical content on the physical CD set and on streaming, they're identical. There's no difference. So the only difference between buying the physical media and listening to the streaming basically is going to be the little booklet with the liner notes by Haynes. Anyway, this soundtrack album consists mostly of Velvet recordings that Haynes clipped to use in a movie. It also has a few non-VU tracks. Most of them included to spotlight the kinds of music that inspired John Cale and Lou Reed in their formative years. One of the most interesting tracks on this album is the Ostrich, which is a pre-VU track that was the first time Cale and Reed played music together. But what I'll do here is I'll give a quick rundown of what's on this album, going track by track, and I'll explain pretty much what each track is and where it comes from. If you're a VU fan, you'll know most of these tracks, but I'll give you a little insight as to what might make these particular tracks different than what you've heard before. Anyway, the first track on the album, let me get this in front of me, is Venus and Furs. And this is from the debut, from the Velvet Underground and NICO album. And this is identical to the track that's on the debut album, but it's been remastered and cleaned up a bit. So here it sounds quite a bit cleaner than on the original album. I guess they did a little digitizing to it and a little engineering to it, remastering to clean out some of the noise that appeared on this in its original form. The second track is The Wind by a doo-wop group called the DIABLOS. This is a 3-minute track from back in the mid-50s, and it's pretty much a standard doo-wop song from that era. But this was included because this is the music that Lou Reed grew up with when he was a kid. He grew up listening to street corner doo-wop music, and it was a huge influence on the direction he went in with his music. The third track is something pretty interesting. It is called 17-12-63 NYC, The Fire is a Mirror. And this is an excerpt. What this is it's from the Theater of Eternal Music. This is a 6-minute clip. Lamont Young, who Cale studied with and performed with and played with during his college days at Syracuse University to study harmonics and the use of drones and things like that. Well, this is a clip from that. And what makes this really interesting, this is pretty rare. Lamont Young, he's still with us, he's still around. He was actually interviewed in the documentary, but he had a lot of his music taped, a lot of the performances taped, but he has never released anything publicly or commercially. He has all these tapes. He has this bank of tapes of all these performances that he did, and he's held on to them. He's held them tight. He's never actually released them. Well, he did allow Haynes to use this piece. Like I say, it's 6 minutes in the movie and on the soundtrack. So this is a pretty rare opportunity to hear what the Theater of Eternal Music and Lamont Young was all about. This one, it included performing on this track is CALE is on viola, but it's nothing. It's 6 minutes of viola and guitar drones and percussion, and there's, you know, it's not what most of us consider popular music by any means, but it's just included here just to let you know that this is where John Cale came from. And as I was listening to this, it dawned on me, it occurred to me, and I'd probably heard this before, but it dawned on me that this is the kind of stuff that Reed's later venture, Metal Machine Music, came from. It basically, this Metal Machine Music was Reed doing this same kind of stuff, just with electronics instead of with real musical instruments. But it's really interesting to hear this, especially in this context of all the Velvet Underground stuff. It certainly gives you a feeling of where some of this stuff came from. Okay, the fourth track is a mono mix of Heroin from the debut album. It's the same. It's the same track as you hear on the debut album, but you know, the debut album was originally released in mono, and this is a mono version of that. Again, like Venus and Furs, it's been cleaned up a little bit, so the production of it, the recording of it sounds really clean, a lot cleaner than we're used to from hearing them on the original albums. The fifth track, Roadrunner, is a live track from Bo Diddley, included here to, again, this is one of Reed's bigger influences. And the sixth track is the Ostrich. What this is Reed, after he graduated from Syracuse, got a job as a staff writer on Pickwick Records. Most of you probably know the story, but Pickwick Records, they put out these 99-cent albums, and Reed and, you know, other guys, the staff of writers would just sit in a room and write quick knockoff songs about a theme, you know, like beach party music or whatever, hot rod music, whatever. This is from an album they put out of dance music, of dance crazes. They're trying to start a dance craze, and the Ostrich is one of the dance crazes that Reed wrote about. And it's pretty funny, but this is a real, and the name of the group was the Primitives, and the reason this is included here, because this is the first time that Cale and Reed played together when Pickwick Records put this record out, and it got a little bit of buzz. The song got a little bit of buzz, and some radio stations started playing it, so they had a hit. So they had to hastily quickly put a band together to go out and make a couple of live appearances to play this song. And Reed was an obvious choice because he wrote the song and he sang it actually on the original record. And Cale was brought in to help this. It just somebody put out the word, and Cale said, yeah, I'll do it. And they paid him a few bucks to come and play on the record, and that's actually how Reed and Cale met. It's by the Primitives. It's a real primitive recording. It's kind of hard to hear, but it's really funny. It's great to hear it. The seventh track is I'm Waiting for the Man. Like Venus and Furs, it's from the debut album, a cleaned up version of the track from the debut album. The eighth track is Chelsea Girls, which is NICO's song from her debut album, Chelsea Girl. This is a song written by Reed and Sterling Morrison and recorded shortly after the debut album was released, shortly after the Velvet Underground and NICO was released. Sunday Morning closes out the first CD. Again, just a cleaned up version of the track from the Velvet Underground and NICO album. The second CD starts off with a 19-minute live version of Sister Ray, which was recorded somewhere in New York City in 1969. I'm not sure the details of where this was, but this was, I mean, you know, exactly what venue it was. But this was recorded shortly after the White Light, White Heat album came out. This is a live version. I don't know if this has ever appeared anywhere else or not. It probably has. I'm not familiar with every VU compilation that's been that's landed in the last few years. So this may have appeared somewhere before. I'm not sure, but it's here for your listening pleasure, and it's just a loud, obnoxious, abrasive run through of Sister Ray, just like you would expect to hear it live. The second track on second CD is Pale Blue Eyes, a cleaned up version from the, it's the identical track from the Velvet Underground's third album. Foggy Notion, it's a cleaned up version of the track from the VU compilation that appeared in 1958. This was one of the tracks that was recorded by the Velvets after the third album when they were putting together a fourth album, but it got abandoned when they got dropped from their record label. And a few years later, somebody found all these tracks sitting around in a vault and then issued the album VU in 1985. The fourth track on CD2 is a live version of After Hours. This is the track, if you've heard the Complete Matrix tapes, which was released a few years ago, this is a 1969 show at the Matrix in San Francisco that a few years ago, somebody found these tapes of the show and issued them in a multi-disc pack. And this is from that. This is pretty cool. It's a 3-minute track, but it includes the live introduction that Reed's spoken introduction, where he explains why he allowed Mo Tucker to sing this song. It's pretty interesting. But again, if you've heard the Matrix Tapes album, this is from that. The fifth track is Sweet Jane. This is the extended version that became the official version of Sweet Jane after I think the first time this appeared was on Peel Solely and C, with the Heavenly Wine and Roses bridges added back into it. That's the section that was originally edited out of the song that was put back in for later releases. The sixth track on CD2 is Ocean. This is another track that came from the what they call the Lost Velvet Underground album. Ocean was recorded by the VU 2 or 3 times subsequently. They re-recorded this. They recorded this originally. The track here was recorded originally for the fourth album that was never released, and then they re-recorded it again later during the Loaded sessions, but they never used it on the Loaded album either. But this particular one is the first known recording of Ocean, which came from 1969, and the album closes out with a cleaned up version of All Tomorrow's Parties from the debut album, which was Andy Warhol's favorite track. This is worth, if you're a VU fan, it's definitely worth giving this album a listen. You know, even these songs that you know very well, they probably sound a little better than what you're used to. So it's worth listening to that for that. It's definitely worth going through there to listen to the Ostrich if you've never heard that before, and like I say, and especially then the track, The Theater of Eternal Music's track, because I'm sure you've probably never heard this before, and it's worth hearing. So anyway, so for you Velvet Underground fans, definitely give it a listen. It'll you'll find something to like here. And those of you who aren't familiar at all with the Velvet Underground, well, this gives you a pretty good idea of what they were all about. So definitely check it out. Check out the documentary on Apple TV Plus. If you don't subscribe to Apple TV Plus, you can probably find a free trial of it somewhere for a month or whatever, and allow you to see the movie. The movie, I like the movie a lot. It's definitely worth looking at. You learned a lot. The movie was more about what influenced the Velvet Underground as opposed to and what drove them, as opposed to what happened with the Velvet Underground's music after they recorded it. This is all the back end. This explains to you where the Velvet Underground is coming from instead of where the Velvet Underground led. And very interesting movie. I really enjoyed it, and it's put together very well. But anyway, check it out. Check out the movie. Check out the soundtrack. I think you'll find something to like about both of them. And thanks for listening. And we'll be back on Friday with another edition of Geezerology. So long, everybody.